Well, I agree with him that Boko Haram can actually be easily tackled. But sadly, you can't tackle it if you don't have the capacity to do so. If you've not demonstrated the capacity to do so. I mean, this has been on since 2001. It's not like a recent phenomenon. This has been on since 2001. And I think that we need to understand it for what it is. Boko Haram is a politicized insurgency. And so it seems to be that the attitude seems to be to say, well, let us deal with those guys in the streets. But I've just quoted the former vice president who says that, in fact, there are political supporters of these origins to these kind of insurgencies. And it seems to me that a better approach will be to have a diagnostic understanding of the crisis, which means you need to know the origins even as you tackle the symptoms. And the origins are political. I understand that there are all kinds of, ideological interest in this. Ideological in the sense that although they may have started first as political enforcers for politicians, eventually, they may have been infiltrated by all kinds of people, including anarchists, jihadists, and Islamists, and all kinds of people may have entered the terrain in order to politicize the insurgency. So what we have now is an ideologically deep insurgency that has, a jihadist ideology that is strikingly similar to that of the Taliban, frankly. Now, while I understand that the government is dealing with this, my point is that it would miss the point if we just look at Boko Haram as simply a matter of street insurgency. It is something that is politicized. And so if you want to deal with this holistically, you want to deal with it both on the streets and systemically. I say this because, if people have been empowered, to function as political thugs, and eventually after elections are won, these people feel disgruntled enough to use the power to then subvert the state. And you want to deal with that. It's only reasonable that you deal with it holistically. And I think that that kind of political will is yet to be demonstrated. Now, if you do that, eventually you need people, you need the security forces that will infiltrate them, get intelligence information, use counterinsurgency methods to try to apprehend them. Once they are apprehended, the executive arm of government does not have, theoretically, does not have influence over the judicial arm. And so we still run into a crisis because the judicial system is yet to live up to its full potential as far as my reading of the judicial system is concerned. So what it means is that we have a fragility of systems. So we have the fragility of our politics is constituted as warfare. Since 1960, the Nigerian politics has been constituted as warfare. So it doesn't surprise us that, masters of violence and people predisposed to crime have come to dominate our politics. And what we see is a tendency to politicize an insurgency. So if you want to deal with this kind of insurgency, what seems clear to me is that you need to have the political will to change the character of our politics. You need to have to overhaul our security system to deal with the insurgency.
One. I'm sorry. Can we take it one by one? The political will.
Yes.
What will it take to demonstrate that will?
What it will take is to identify how these groups originated in the first place. If the former vice president of the country has said in a public medium that certain governors actually supported the arming of the young boys in order to win elections, subvert the will of the people, and that these young fellows have eventually turned out to be dangerous insurgents, I think judicially a person who makes such a statement should be seen as a star witness to crime. So it takes a great deal of political will to identify the governors.
When you say star witness to crime?
Yes, because the vice president said he personally spoke to the governors who were using money to recruit these fellows as private militias to rig elections.
So would you then be saying that those governors should be prosecuted?
They will be committed. If what the vice president said is correct, then they have clearly breached the law, and they ought to be held responsible for that if we want to tackle the very roots of this kind of insurgencies. So, and it will take tremendous political will and capital to do that. And my point, just a second, my point is that we are yet to demonstrate that political will, that political strength of character to get to the root of all of these insurgencies. If we understand that Boko Haram is such a menace, by simple logical extension, we want to historicize their origins. We want to know particularly how they evolved. It's fine to wage the war they are waging in all of the Northeast, okay? But if you want to find out exactly how they started, and this is an inconvenient conversation, I have to tell you. There's a failure of analysis as far as this particular political origins of Boko Haram is concerned. But if you really want to be intellectually honest, I think that you cannot be treating symptoms in total abdication of how to treat the causes.